that I had some experiences that were quite amazing with individuals. And I also found that, and one of the things that I realized is that all of the journeys of our life, they all kind of come together, and all the experiences that we have make up who we are. And so starting with my sales career, and then going into ministry and the different churches that I went at, and my peacemaking work, I got very involved in a lot of peacemaking work and supporting people in mediation and other kinds of experiences. I did a lot of work with family systems dynamics in my peacemaking work because churches tend to be family systems, and so I wanted to really understand that and learn that. And so all those experiences sort of came together and showed up in the context of working with the families of and seniors that are involved in this move. Even though I'm a senior, I get my senior discount now. But most of the people I work with are probably in their 80s and 90s in terms of the seniors, and then their children. And I've had people, we find a place, for a mom, and I've had them start crying because there was so much stress. There was so much unknown. And in that moment, they need to be held, and there's just a moment of ministry that shows up in that experience for me. And so I sort of found that to be quite compelling and challenging in many ways. I had a situation not long ago where an adult child called me, and this adult child is my age, right? He's 60 years old. So he calls me, and his 94-year-old mother has macular degeneration, so she can't see very well. It's getting worse. She has Lewy body dementia, which is a dementia that causes you to see things. It's a like hallucination sort of experience, and she's living alone in Ballard. And she's in a house with all kinds of stairs, and and it's just not a good situation. She keeps falling and having a difficult time, but she is stubborn as the most stubborn mule you've ever seen. She will not make a change, And the three siblings are frustrated, and they don't know what to do. And so I talked with them a little bit, and turns out that all three of them were scared to death of Mom. This little 94-year-old lady, but they're all scared to death, And I said, well, she knew every button that they had. And she knew exactly how to push them, So she still had that ability. And so they would meet with her, and she would have them twisted in knots in 3 minutes, going back and forth. And so there was no way for them to really have a conversation that was appropriate and necessary and that came from here, because there was no chance to get here, to get into that space because of the dynamics that were there. And so I sat down with them and coached them. And we had a little coaching session, and we talked about relationship and what's going on, and came to that place where we realized that really what is important is the relationship. It's the relationship that is everything. It isn't about whether Mom moves here or does this or makes this change. Really, it's about relationship. And what's really happening is your relationship isn't where you want it to be. And if you can bring your relationship to a place where you want it to be, then the rest will take care of itself. Because we're not in the business of trying to make somebody do something that they don't want to do. We're in the business of connecting with people, and if we connect with people in a way that's meaningful, then the other parts of it will take care of themselves. They will unfold in their perfect order. And so with the coaching, they went, all three of them. Mom ended up in a skilled nursing facility because she fell, and she couldn't go home. They wouldn't let her go home so she could go to another place. And so they went to her room, and they sat down, and they listened. And they didn't react, and they didn't try to argue with her, and they didn't try to make her wrong, and they didn't try to do any of that stuff. They just listened, and then they just talked positively. They told stories about their life and what their life was like, and they they affirmed who she was. That's ministry. That's how it shows up. Because we make a difference. And Mom made the decision on her own to go to a place for a month while she was recovering. And she did. She went there, had a great experience. She still wanted to go back home, but it was okay because the relationship was there. And that's what it's all about. Life is about relationship. Spiritual growth is about relationship. And our relationship, just because I'm no longer the senior minister, does not mean that we won't have a relationship. It does not mean that we did not have an experience together. It does not mean that in the future that we won't be hanging out with each other or talking with each other, or that I won't have the chance to support you at some time down the road in some life experience that shows up. Over the next year, your new minister will need a chance to settle in. We'll need a chance to feel and gather the support of the community for how that ministry shows up through her. I believe it's a her. I don't know if there's an announcement or not, but okay. So that's what needs to happen. And so I need to step back for a little while just to let that happen. But that doesn't mean I'm gone. And it doesn't mean that I won't be back to speak, because I will look forward to that, coming back to speak. And there'll be a right and proper time for that to happen, to continue our relationship. Because it isn't a stop and a start experience. It's an ongoing experience. I still have relationship with a lot of folks in Reno from 1985 to 1990 when I was there. I still have a relationship with an awful lot of people in the Seattle church because of our experience together. And so I've been here for 7 years, and in many ways my relationships with many of you are much deeper than they were in some of the other ministries that I served. And so I feel like there's this lifetime connection, that we have created an energy and a synergy. And that my wish for this ministry and my hope is that as a new leadership energy moves in here, that each of you will show up and support that in whatever way you can. That each of you will show up, and you may not be in sync right off the bat, but if you show up in this community of loving, supportive, empowered people, you will make a connection. You'll make that relationship. And it has nothing to do with yours and my relationship. It'll be a different relationship. But it'll be just as good and just as powerful and just as wonderful and just as supportive. In fact, in some ways, you'll be challenged to a greater level of growth, because that's what happens when new energy moves in. We're challenged. And as we're challenged, we step up to that challenge. And there's I see this so often in churches that so many times, people leave. But I want you to know that the church is not the minister. The church is the people. And the ministry is each other. And all the minister does is facilitate the process. That's all I do. I speak the truth. I tell my stories. I do my thing. I show up. But I'm just facilitating a process. I'm just creating a space for something to happen. That's what I'm here for. That's what we're all here for. And so really, it's your church. It's not my church. It's our church. And I'm still a part of it. I'll still be a part of it for the rest of my life, because it's a part of me. And you're a part of me. And so that's kind of how it works. So we all have our journeys and paths and doors that open and doors that close and changes and circumstances that occur. And this is one of those moments. And I have this sense that, there's something in me that wants to be shared about me. And there's a song